I don't want to call it a stunt yet. There's going to be an investigation. I know Jamal. And so, again, I'm a little biased. But the doors that are normally open so that he could get to the chambers to read were somehow miraculously closed. How did that happen? And so, yes, sometimes you're freaking out and you're in an elevator and you're pressing all the buttons.
Congressman Jamal Bowman pleads guilty today to a misdemeanor charge for pulling the fire alarm at a U.S. House office building. The Yonkers Democrat admitting to pulling the fire alarm last month as lawmakers scrambled to pass a funding bill ahead of a possible government shutdown.
Okay, let me introduce you to Jamal Bowman, a U.S. Congressman who represents New York's 16th District. Now, he's a member of the Liberal Squad and is a deep blue Democrat. Now, let me take you back. During a vote in Congress, Bowman pulled a fire alarm in the Cannon office building. For those of you who don't know, that's one of those congressional office buildings that are around the Capitol. Now, by pulling that fire alarm, he caused the building to be evacuated and in turn delayed a vote. Here is CNN explaining it.
To all the antics we saw up on Capitol Hill earlier today, I guess somebody pulled a fire alarm. Democratic Congressman Jamal Bowman is under investigation for pulling a fire alarm in the House Cannon office building. Bowman's was identified by security footage, and his office says this was just an accident. You know, I don't know how you accidentally pull in a fire alarm, SC, but I mean, and all kidding aside, they are taking this somewhat seriously. This is no joking matter up on Capitol Hill, as juvenile as it sounds.
Now, as you just heard, Bowman claimed it was an accident. He was trying to exit the building and pulling the alarm was one of his options. Here is his statement.
He later released a statement reading in part, quote, "Today I was rushing to make a vote. I came to a door that is usually open for votes, but today would not open. I'm embarrassed to admit that I activated the fire alarm, mistakenly thinking it would open the door. I regret this, sincerely apologize for any confusion this caused, but I want to be very clear, this was not me in any way trying to delay any vote."
Now, as you can imagine, Democrats came to his defense, trying to convince the public to believe Bowman's story. Here are the women of The View literally bending over backwards to defend Bowman's pulling of the fire alarm to stop the vote.
And I don't want to call it a stunt yet. There's going to be an investigation. I know Jamal. And so, again, I'm a little biased, but the doors that are normally open so that he could get to the chambers to read were somehow miraculously closed. How did that happen? And so, yes, sometimes you're freaking out and you're in an elevator and you're pressing all the buttons.
What you were saying, it goes to them not having the time. It is quite possible that he was trying to get there and the door, not panic, but you know, if you're not looking, because it's a door that's normally open, you just go and you press a button.
Now, obviously, Bowman's a part of the squad, and AOC is probably the leader of the squad. So watch her defend Bowman. She's going to talk about whataboutism. She's going to talk about the panicked black man theory that you heard from The View. And again, this is all to kind of excuse his conduct of pulling the fire alarm.
Interesting moment over the weekend when your New York colleague, Congressman Jamal Bowman, and he's under investigation for this now after Capitol Police say he pulled a fire alarm in one of the House office buildings. Democrats were trying to delay a vote, a final vote on the bill. There he is pulling the fire alarm. He says it was an accident. He thought pulling the alarm would open a door based on the fact that the doors to his right there were locked, and there was a sign that he said he was, I think someone said it was confusing. I'll be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me, his explanation. Have you talked to him? What's going on there?
I mean, listen, I think if you actually do see some of the photos of the signs, I think there's something to be said about the government's about to shut down. There's a vote clock that's going down. The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
So you pulled the fire alarm?
So what I am here to say is that House administration and U.S. Capitol Police and Jamal Bowman are an active, and he's fully participating in saying there was a misunderstanding. But what I do think is important to raise is the fact that Republicans, representatives like Nicole Malliotakis and others, immediately moved to file motions to censure, motions to expel, before there has even been conversations that are finished to even see if there was a misunderstanding here. But what they did do, while they did that, what they did not do was to commit to the same when George Santos was actually found guilty after a thorough investigation of 13 federal charges. He's indicted on everything from wire fraud to actual lying of House investigators. And they have been buddying up and giggling with him on the House floor, and they are protecting someone who has lied to the American people, lied to the United States House of Representatives, lied to congressional investigators, but they're filing a motion to expel a member who, in a moment of panic, was trying to escape a vestibule. Give me a break. And so the idea that there is somehow any kind of equivalence to someone who is actively trying to clear up a situation that he himself admits he's embarrassed. He released a statement last night. He apologized. And they are protecting someone who has not only committed wire fraud, not only defrauded veterans, not only lied to congressional investigators, but is openly gloating about it, is absolutely humiliating to the Republican caucus. And I think that they should really check their own values.
There's another Republican who's been indicted also that they've been defending, but we don't have the time to go into all of those charges, 91 of them.
So guess what happened? An investigation took place, and now we get to see the entire video of what happened. Did Congressman Bowman just panic and pull the fire alarm to try to open up the door? Or did he pull the alarm to stop the vote? Well, here's the video. Judge it for yourself. So let's break this down. He goes to the door, tries to open, it looks like. Door doesn't open. Then he starts ripping down the signs. And before he walks away, he pulls the fire alarm. Now, I'm thinking if he meant to pull the fire alarm to try to open the door, why didn't he try to open the door after he pulled the fire alarm, right? Pull the fire alarm, then you check the door. He didn't do that. He pulled the fire alarm and then walked away. So this video makes it seem like he pulled that alarm on purpose. Now, armed with the video, the authorities decided to charge Congressman Bowman with a misdemeanor.
Another breaking story involving charges against a politician from our area. Congressman Jamal Bowman from New York is now charged in D.C. with one count of falsely pulling the fire alarm. He was seen on video pulling a fire alarm inside the Capitol as Democrats were trying to delay a key government funding vote.
So Bowman didn't plead guilty to those charges because the video was very damning to his case.
He thought he was opening the door, and now this morning we've actually got video. Fox News, I think it could be exclusive video of him turning himself in. He's going to plead guilty to a single false fire alarm charge. He's agreed to pay a maximum fine of $1,000. Here he is just a little while ago talking about the jam he's in.
As I said from the beginning, I was not trying to disrupt any, official government proceedings. So I'm glad, the investigation found that was the case. The misdemeanor charge of pulling the alarm, I admitted that from the very beginning. So, gotta take responsibility for it. We have a deal in place, so looking forward to paying the fine, and 3 months later it being dismissed, and hopefully continuing to do work in my district.
Now, the defenders of Representative Bowman have to eat a little humble pie. Their description and excuse for Congressman Bowman inadvertently exposed their own biases. It wasn't about what the person did, but what team the person played for. See, if Bowman was a Republican, Sonny Hostin and AOC would have been trying to throw him to the wolves, right? He should be kicked out of Congress. He tried to do this to stop the vote. But since he's on their team, we have to understand he was panicked, he was this, he was that. But now he's pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor crime. Now, I want to make it clear, both sides do it. No matter what evidence you'll show, sometimes if you're team red or you're team blue, the people will ignore it and only want to believe what they want to believe. Facts be damned. But I think in this case, it definitely does show us that sometimes, no matter what happens, when it comes to politics, it's about the team the person is on. So at the end of the day, Congressman Bowman pleaded guilty to his criminal activity and is going to pay his fine and do his community service. But my question to you, what do you think AOC or Women of the View would have said if this was McCarthy or some Republican who had pulled this fire alarm? Do you think they would have been as understanding as they were, especially during a critical vote? Like, honestly, if you're someone who is a Democrat, what do you believe they would have said about a Republican congressman who pulled that fire alarm and now is pleaded guilty to pulling that fire alarm? I think they would have been singing a totally different tune. But Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me nature crazy. These people have integrity and would have said the same thing, but I don't believe that's true. I believe they're all political hacks. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nathan Lawyer, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace.